What does Viktor Frankl's The Man's Search for Meaning have to do with The Walking Dead? I know it's a ridiculous question, stay with me. Because as he describes on page 5, there was neither time nor desire to consider moral or ethical issues. Every man was controlled by one thought only: to keep himself alive, for the family waiting for him at home, and to save his friends. In other words, every man for himself, wartime desperation ethics. This kind of Walking Dead desperation ethics is described in Octavia Butler's book Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents, but you don't need to have seen The Walking Dead or read either of these books to understand this. We lived through the pandemic and we had to ask the question of who gets the scarce number of ventilators. Triage ethics is something that we have started to witness in the public eye. More, we often celebrate generals who are willing to send soldiers to their deaths in the most strategic way. There's no world in which it is ethical to send someone to die unless you've transitioned out of sort of everyday ethics into the desperation ethics, the scarcity triage ethics that is described in this book. To be clear, this isn't a moral blank check to do whatever you want. Survival ethics don't negate the existence of war crimes. There are lines that should not be crossed. But the connection to the real world comes when we are willing to recognize that the conditions of desperation create wartime ethics in film, but we still incarcerate people for low-level drug offenses in the real world. Before we get to Bryan Stevenson, it's worth mentioning the young adult version of this story. Kimberly Jones and Julie Siegel write the story of a person walking from the world of an ethics of abundance into a world of an ethics of scarcity. If you haven't read How We Can Win by Kimberly Jones, or just herself, it goes into this in more detail, particularly re-economics and the kind of protest that burns down a Target. So am I suggesting that we have two different justice systems, one for those existing in a state of scarcity and one for those existing in a state of abundance? No, but it is the reality that we do have that already, just flipped in the wrong direction. We Americans loudly proclaim that all are equal under the law, and yet the laws are enforced disproportionately depending on the color of your skin. Chapter 15 explains the case of Jimmy Dill, who was wrongfully executed, and not in some ambiguous way. The government killed him when they didn't need to. Wrongful arrests, increased numbers of executions, disproportionate sentencing. The justice system is already unequal. So should sentencing be sensitive to scarcity ethics? That might seem unfair, but it would be a better unfair than what we have now.